Good morning, everyone. Myself and Angus, who is the pillar co-advocate, will be giving an insight on what we are doing on a digital standards pillar. Before we do that, I'd just like to express my gratitude to the overall pillar, who's really contributed towards guiding this. This is Ron Munnelly, who is also the pillar advocate, and as well to my co-chair, David Bourke, who is in ATU chairing a workshop down there in regards to a similar initiative today. I'm going to pass over to Angus to begin, and Angus will do the first couple of slides, give you an understanding of the context and motivation of why we're doing this and a vision for the project. And then I'll deep dive into some of the deliverables, what we're hoping to achieve, and what we have achieved to date.
Thank you, Barry. Good morning, all. My name is Angus O'Keefe from Ronan O'Donovan Consulting Engineers. I'm the director there. Background in civil infrastructure rather than building infrastructure, working both in Ireland and the UK. So just on the question of what are BIM standards. So we've got the standards pillar, but what are BIM standards? Well, there's no definition of what a BIM standard is. It's a pretty loose term, and it encompasses many things. It really encompasses the standards that can be used when a person or an organization wants to follow BIM processes or apply BIM technologies. And it can, when people think standards, they also often think, well, ISO or CEN, European standards, but standards apply at multiple levels. They can be at the international level, they can be at a national level, they can be at an organizational level, for example, within a major public buyer, an asset owner, and then they can be at an organizational level within organizations like my own. And that's important to remember. And then standards cover various things. We heard PJ earlier on speaking about the various dimensions. I'm not a big fan of term 60 and 70 and those sorts of things, but anyway, that's another day's discussion. The standards apply across various activities that we do. I see lots of buildings up here. As I said, I work in civil infrastructure, but the parallels are the same. We need to analyze things. We need to exchange that analysis with other organizations. How do we exchange that information in an efficient way? We follow standards. How do we measure the amount of material in it so that we can calculate a cost estimate, or we can enable tendering contractors to price something? Hopefully we use standards. At the moment, there are standards, but they're not digital standards. And what I mean there is they don't tell us how to structure that information and exchange it with another party in a way that they can use it in an automated way within their systems. Likewise, through other stages, right through to asset management. A lot of the big public buyers in Ireland do not have clear asset information management requirements, don't even, as I understand, have organizational information requirements set out. So if the big buyers don't have it, then we in the industry don't know what to provide. We're not able to feed information through the full life cycle of a project and through the full life cycle of an asset in an efficient way. So the standards, and I could speak at length about this, the standards cover various things throughout the life cycle, but they also cover the format of the data, the nature of the data exchange, the processes to be followed, the classification of asset types and information types. There's lots of different types of standards, again, at the international, national, and organizational level. And we need to remember that. So Build Digital, and bear in mind I wasn't involved in setting up Build Digital, I was just invited to contribute to the project after it was established. The standards pillar is to champion the benefits of common rules, guidelines, and workflows that facilitate improvement of information flow and information management across full asset life cycles. I think that's a wonderful vision, but there's a big gap. And the big gap there is that the responsibility of Build Digital is just that in the standards context, to champion the benefits. It's not to write new standards. It's not to sit down with standardization bodies and put together the standards. It's not to, and that we don't have those standards in Ireland. We have the international standards, but we don't have national standards. And we heard mentioned earlier on in the survey results that clients need, that there's a lack of client demand. Well, a lot of the public clients are fearful about implementing a standard because maybe it's not consistent with what their other public bodies are going to do or what's going to be done at a national level. So we really need the national leadership, and that has to come pretty soon in the next few months, hopefully with appropriate consultation with industry, to know what the wider industry is going to do in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and not just at a high level, but at a detailed level. How's the data going to be structured? How's it going to be exchanged? How's it going to be validated in a technical manner, so that the rest of us can follow along with that vision from a national level and from the level of big government bodies and public buyers. So on that vein, the standards pillar, the innovators and Barry and his colleagues have done great work doing research around Europe and further afield on the context of standards in other countries, and that sits consistently with what you've already heard from Pillar 1 and the other pillars. So, Barry.
Thanks, Angus. So Angus has kind of alluded on, it would be remiss if we just concentrated on just standards in this pillar. There's a whole bigger piece. There's classifications, there's templates, there's guidelines, there's information frameworks, there's protocols. And this is all part somewhat of our remit and the work that we're doing. So we have 5 core deliverables over the next 5 years. And what they are ultimately is the formation of an NSI liaison committee, so the work in tandem and hand in hand with the NSI. A standard review, so to produce a really deep dive international review of existing standards, templates, classifications, in order to give us some context of the standards that we intend to champion, we intend to maybe adopt, we intend to put forward as a possible solution for our own information framework. Consultation with the industry, specifically with SMEs, and we also are moving next to developing national guidelines for the Irish BIM framework and produce standards-based CPD postgraduate and undergraduate module development. Where we are at the moment is that we have 10 active and experienced interim members, 2 full-time and 1 part-time innovator. We have created our liaison committee with the NSI. We are in the moment formalizing our terms and conditions. We hope that that'll be, we're sitting on the mirror committee in regards to ISO 9650, but we also have created this additional liaison committee so we can assist in areas that the NSI believe that we can bring our guidance, and vice versa. We've just completed a standards review, which I'll go into in a bit of detail, and some interesting information within that. We looked internationally across guidance documents, templates, classification systems, exchange formats, open data, and this will be made available towards the whole of the industry in the next couple of weeks. We have undertaken a period of consultation where we have set out our survey. We've seen some of the results. We have workshops today, and then we hope to have an additional workshop potentially as well post this. And we'll be putting forward a selection of guidelines that we do intend to develop over the course of the project, and they will look at guidelines within the remit of design, construction phase, handover, and also for the client. And then that lead on then obviously to our CPD development. So the fourth significant piece of work the standards pillar has done is produce our international standards review. And I have to give significant credit to my colleague Ryan Dempsey, who has worked very tirelessly in helping us pull together the research in this aspect with guidance from myself and David and the pillar as well. And ultimately what we were aiming to do was analyze the current suite of digital construction standards through a desktop research, create a scoring system for each one, and then to put forward recommendations for adoption of digital construction. With that, we looked at putting them under the headings and companies, standards, names, categories, descriptions, REBA and RII stages, so where they align, scoring, and the rationale for their use in the Build Digital project along with the Digital Commons. So this will be kind of a high level understanding of what this Excel sheet would look like, which we've condensed into a further summary document. So for example, we're just not looking at ISO 9650 standards. You know, I mean, they're the default standards we all know about, and we want to understand where digital construction is integrated throughout the whole of the life cycle. For example, ISO 9000, I think it is Quality Management Framework. ISO 5500 is asset management. So all of these are integrated in some regard when we come to digital construction. So we need to understand the whole piece, the whole life cycle, not just a selection. We looked at particular guidance documents. We did a deep dive across country. So for example, the likes of Czechoslovakia, Poland, Latvia, Chile, they've all got national standards in place or national standards drafted. So these are actually quite interesting, these kind of different jurisdictions that we can learn from, that we can kind of build from. So we kind of got a good understanding of guidance from the likes of Building Smart, ISO, CEN, CIC, AEC. So we really kind of took a real holistic understanding of the available guidance. We looked at open exchange data, for example, across master format, uni format, uniclass, omniclass, and as well as open exchange such as IFC. So we've really tried to produce a complete picture of what we would believe would be a optimum solution when we move toward our information framework. So for example, this is kind of just a further breakdown where we have the classifications, open data exchanges, and the standards, and we have a scoring system, the name, and the rationale. We will be releasing this out further. I've already had discussions with the OPW in regard to some of this work, so it's already getting a little bit of traction as well. So moving forward, the next steps is that we aim to post this workshop and the workshop down in ATU. We aim to kind of continue our consultation phase, reach out to SMEs, and potentially hold additional workshops or, you know, to collate more data so we can do a cross-reference and exercise between this report, between the workshops, between the survey, so we get an actually a really detailed and explicit understanding of where we are as a country and what we need standard-wise. This will kind of help then with our schedule of standards, cross-professional group and more specific guidance for publication. And then obviously next year, starting with January, we'll be working very closely with procurement pillar in the drafting of the national guidelines for the Irish BIM or digital construction framework. Many thanks for your attention, and I'll pass back to Robert.